of media. Let's go now to Matthew Spear, the conservative host of the Don't Unfriend Me show and Navy intelligence veteran. Matthew, thanks so much for joining us here on Right Side.
Thanks, Matthew. The good news is I won't forget your name, so it should be pretty easy to remember.
Exactly. And so do you go by Matthew or Matt? Because which one do you like?
That's our question, and I think we both probably have the same answer. It depends on if our mother was mad at us or not, so I'm fine with either. But how about Matt? For the sake of confusion, I'll call you Matthew, and we'll call it good.
All right, that sounds like a plan. What are your thoughts about the country right now? Let's just take a 30,000-foot view and just hear some of your insight.
To be honest with you, that's a great question. I was hoping you would lead with something like this. If I was looking back on 2020 and specifically January 2021, I was nervous. Made some predictions that Biden would definitely fall to the side of Jimmy Carter or worse. And those predictions came fairly accurate, unfortunately. But there was something that took place when Donald Trump was sworn in. And I think the word that Obama stole and lied to all of us was hope. And it felt like our country somehow understood that the track that we were on and flirting with progressive and socialism ideology over the last 70 years is not the way we want to go. So I love where we're moving towards. I love the deals. I love the meltdown that's on the left where everything is doom and gloom. But somehow it seems like we're on the right track right now. And let's see where it leads us in the next 3.5 years.
Well, and that leads me to my next question. What would you say needs to be done to save the future of our country? Of course, President Trump in office is a perfect start.
Mm-hmm. I think when you look at executive orders that were never designed to create law and legislation, it was designed to help the executive branch move forward with red tape and how to take the appropriations from the House and find out how to execute the vision of legislation. I think they're a stepping stone, but they're not going to solve the problem. And we've seen that what happens over the last two presidencies in particular is that when the new regime comes in from the other side, they tend to dismantle everything that was good that the previous president put in place. So I think the first thing, if we're going to talk from a high level, is we're going to have to get the House and the Senate to find a way to start standing together. Infighting is not going to work. These separation pieces that are inside the GOP need to solidify and stand with President Trump. And more importantly, in a very short period of time, 3.5 years, we're going to have to understand is that Donald Trump is not going to be the president of the United States. And although his influence will be there, who is going to step up and actually lead this movement, which is just taken the world by storm? And now it is global. It's no longer just the United States.
Exactly. One of the other things that we've been hearing, everyday Americans saying, I remember the conservative analyst and author T.S. Dixon, I know you spoke to him as well, talking about these, investigations and prosecutions to really, hamper any effort of someone that would come in and reverse everything, to your point. So would you elaborate on your thoughts about the importance of arrests for the deep state as we want these reforms to continue?
It's funny, when I came on, I was like, geez, I hope he's not going to mention TS, because that guy is above anyone I've ever spoken with. He's incredible. And he just shocks me with how much he understands. When he was in studio just a couple of days ago, we were talking about this, and I think the best line that he said, which is, it wasn't verbose, it wasn't too long-winded, it just was simple, that America responds to galvanized steel on wrists. And I think that's what America needs to see. America needs to see accountability. And if you look at all the things that they did towards Donald Trump and the political lawfare, this didn't start just with Trump. I mean, we've seen this with Mitt Romney. We saw it with McCain. We saw it with judges from Reagan, and this stonewalling. We saw it with Clarence Thomas. And this has been ongoing for decades. But there is some pervasiveness and just deep-seated rot that's in Washington, D.C. that keeps remaining to be unchecked. And I think that the thing that TS is looking for is for Donald Trump to utilize the prosecutorial powers that he possesses to make an arrest or at least make a case that doesn't end up swept under the rug. I mean, you saw Comey stand up there for 12.5 minutes and prosecute Hillary Clinton, and all of us are waiting for it to drop. And then he's like, well, she didn't mean to, though. So therefore, and I'm like, wow, that's a great defense. I guess I can use that the next time something happens and And we're found to be behind the 8 ball. But anyway, my point being is that I think there needs to be a case made. We see $37 trillion in wasteful spending, $9 trillion wasted in the defense budget. Where is that money? Where's the accountability? And eventually the government is going to have to answer to the American people. And the Constitution provides us that. It's not their blanket of protection, it's ours. And we need to utilize it.
Yeah, 100%. So let's talk about you and the show that you have. But first, let's go with the Navy intelligence. You're a Navy intelligence veteran. Tell us about your time in the military, why you served, and then also we'll shift over and talk about your show in a second.
Yeah, well, my father, always a Marine, but he passed away. And of course, I joined the Navy just to spite him because that's, a rebellious youth. But I was looking to join the military and I found a call to service and all my family members were military. And my dad and I sat down and he said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to be Jack Ryan. And he said, well, then you want to join the Navy. So I went down to Denver MEPS and they told me, well, unfortunately, there's no intelligence billets. So you're going to have to be a nuclear tech. You qualify for that. And we need nuke techs. And I said, no, that's not what I want to do. So after about 3 days of waiting and coming back every day, an intel billet opened up. And I think in my youth, I was struggling. I was struggling to find God. I was struggling to find that family and camaraderie that I had with my siblings. So the military seemed like the next step, and I had to get my head on straight. So the funny story of that is I had quite a few speeding tickets. So I had to answer and atone for that, and I had to go to the judge, and I sat in front of him, and I wore my suit, and he looked at me, and he said, we're going to go ahead and wipe all these clean, because my Navy recruiter was right next to me, and he said, it's about to get really tough for you, tougher than I could ever throw against you. So you're about to grow up, and I did. So joining Intel was an amazing experience. I got to see some of the most amazing places in the world and work with some of the most effective people at what they do. And it was just a calling that I really enjoyed, loved it.
That's awesome. That's a great story. It's a great story about the fact that the judge knew what you were about to enter into. And then he's like, all right, well, go grow up, Matt. Go grow up.
Yeah. It happened for sure.
That's awesome. All right, so your show is the Don't Unfriend Me show. You've had Congressman Eli Crane on. You've had Laura Logan. Of course, recently people are starting to get used to hearing about T.S. Dixon. He was on the one of your shows. How did that all happen? Tell us about the title. And by the way, it's called the Dumb Show as well.
Yeah. It's this is a point of contention. Trust me. Once you have something and it goes big, and it's not necessarily big, but no, it's not RSBN or anything else. But for a little podcast, you get the brand awareness. And what happened was it was the Don't Unfriend Me show. So the etymology of this is my wife, avid Trump supporter, and in 2020. I was working for a fairly prestigious Fortune 15, and she came up to me and said, hey, can I put a Trump banner up on my Facebook page? And of course you can, sure, this is America. You can do whatever you want. She goes, well, I don't want your friends at the fruit company to see that I'm a Trump supporter. And I said, I don't care. And you go put it up there. So she did. And two of our friends, godparents of our children, who he was my mentor and she was just a matriarch that we look up to, made a comment about Barron and Melania and Donald and said, they should inject bleach so that child can be raised by people who actually love them and could be good role models. And we were appalled, just absolutely appalled. And my wife just said, you've taught me a lot of things in life and the maturation process that you've been a role model for me. I'm just disappointed in you. And they defriended us. They took us off all social media, no more Christmas presents, no more phone calls, nothing. And I went online and made a little video about 30 minutes long, and it received, 30,000 views, and people said, you need to do a show. So it started. And I was working as a vice president at the time, and I started this little show, and Don't Unfriend Me was born. And the interesting thing is the initials, it's a long thing to put in a hashtag. So one of our our viewers said, well, it stands for dumb, don't unfriend me, DUM, and they're calling us Nazis and deplorables and all these horrible things. Why don't we just embrace it? And it's antithetical to how you speak. Nobody's going to think you're dumb, so let's call it the Dumb Show. And the dummies were born, and here we are with the Don't Unfriend Me show.
Oh, so you call them dummies, huh? That's awesome.
They call themselves dummies. I never call them. And but it's funny when liberals come on and try to own me, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're the Dumb Show." I'm like, "Dumb is spelled with a B, by the way. Nice own." So it's fun, and I've kind of moved away from it, but it's still the Dumb Show. It's thedumbshow.com and at the Dumb Show across all social, and it's stuck, and here we are. So I have to explain that 1,000 times a week.
That's, so tell us about Eli Crane and Laura Logan and T.S. Dixon. I mean, you have these guests on, and I'm sure you had a number of other guests. I mean, what is it like when you're the smaller conservative podcast that's growing?
Yeah.
How do you reach out to an Eli Crane and say, hey, you want to come on the show?
Well, the lucky thing is I was at SHOT Show, and I was with another flag making company, and I worked with the teams when I was in Intel, and there's camaraderie there and brotherhood there from at least looking at these guys and going, they're incredible. But Eli and I had a few drinks together. Grunt Style was there, and it just worked out, and we wound up becoming at least acquaintances, if not friends. And I guess the word that I would say is it's just kind of like I guess what somebody would say is an out-of-body experience. Like, it feels really weird sometimes just talking to people who you admire and you respect and who are such true patriots and Americans. I mean, you do this at a much larger scale. Even talking to you, this is insane. I'm on RSBN. I'm like walking around. I went up to my wife and I said, what is going on? Because the last 6 months, it's just everything seems to be moving so quickly. So you asked me what it's like. I think it reconstitutes my efforts to consistently focus on facts. And my partner Leroy, who's on there, and Amy, and my wife Olivia, who's on the show, we all have agreed that we don't talk in supposition or conjecture. We try to focus on facts. We try to focus on seeing the forest through the trees and giving a geopolitical picture through the Constitution, through the law, and things that have to do with honor and integrity. These are words that are lost and used as punchlines by the left. So it's a lot of responsibility. I have to pinch myself sometimes, but it's a huge honor to be here and to talk to these people for sure. So
sometimes, in journalism, a lot of times people have this long-winded question when you don't need to have one. So I'm going to insert that not long-winded question with you right now.
Okay. All right.
Why are you doing what you're doing?
Oh, that's a long one. No. See, that is such a simple question. And this is something we preach on the show constantly, is ask the why. A lot of people focus on the who, what, when, where. But the why will lead you down to the answers that you're looking for. Why are we here? What is God's plan for us? Why am I an American and not somebody who is from another country? I mean, all these whys. And when I look at this of why I did this, I was mad. And I was mad that something so inconsequential as political ideology could sever a relationship and a family all across America. And I listened to the way that they spoke about Donald Trump, and I saw the sinew, the lines of delineation between all of the other candidates for the Republican Party, and it was always the same. They were cheaters. They were racists. And I couldn't understand why right after that person lost or won, it either amplified or you never heard about it again. And it just seemed like all a show, and it was all fake. So when you ask me why I do this, a lot of my listeners who've helped me restore faith with God and my religion and have helped me kind of get on this path say that I'm doing the Lord's work, and I don't agree with that. I believe that I have a voice that can reach people. I believe that I can simplify things in a way with experiential learning and global learnings that I've traveled, and I've seen the way other governments work. I've seen what communism has done to the world. And I can simply help connect the dots through conversation. And we're missing that. And we don't do it anymore. It's a lost art form. So the long answer to your extremely short, complicated question is I feel this is where I belong, and I'm going to continue to do that as long as I can do it. And the next adventure, we'll see what happens.
And finally, regardless of the amount of people watching a live broadcast here at Right Side or on replay, same thing with your Don't Unfriend Me show, but to know that there's one person that could be brought awareness or enlightenment to something to become an even better patriot, or just someone that says, I just want to hear somebody on the media saying something that I believe in, which is the majority of the country, Matt.
Right. No, amen. The funny thing is that you bring that up is we've helped a lot of veterans with PTS and depression and anxiety. And we've actually stopped the show before just to have a conversation with a vet and say, you know what, we're done. We're going to have a one-on-one. We don't want to see, we lose 22 veterans a day. But I can't tell you how many times people are like, man, I met you and I listened to you and I just couldn't stand what you were saying. And then I listened again and then again and again. And what I realized is that you don't have all the answers, but you at least work through the problem and try to identify the right way to be, the right way to think. And it's not about left or right. It's about just focusing on the facts and trusting and having faith. And we all have the ability to learn something. So Matt, like yourself, we both try to find the good in everybody, and we try to find that one little sinew that ties us together. And that is the human qualities that we all possess. We're all human. If we just need to find that element again, we're missing it. So I'm going to continue to try to do it.
Yeah, same here. And it's all about the truth and common sense. Amen. Matthew Spear, the host of the Don't Unfriend Me show, and of course, a Navy intelligence veteran. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Matt, thank you so much. And make sure you guys follow me over on Wimkin at The Dumb Show. Jason's a good guy, and he says hello, by the way.
All right. Thank you so much. Tell him hello.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. So that was great with Matt Spear doing a great job there and having a great show. So if you'd like to watch, you can. Obviously, it's always good to have options, but,